death but the Nazi terror. For his unprecedented heroism, Wallenberg received no honors, no medals. Instead, he was arrested by Soviet soldiers. He disappeared near the Gulag Archipelago, the vast Soviet prison system where millions have vanished without a trace. He was abandoned by his country, forgotten by the world. More than 35 years ago, his captors pronounced him dead. The truth is, he may still be alive, a prisoner in the Soviet Union.
The following program is made possible by this and other public television stations.
The Wallenbergs are not ordinary people. They are one of Sweden's richest, most powerful Protestant families. Founders of a banking empire, industrialists, diplomats, bishops, the confidants of kings. Raoul is not a direct heir to the Wallenberg empire, but with his grandfather's grooming, perhaps he'll find his way into the inner circle. He studies in the best schools of Europe. He travels widely on the continent. He attends the University of Michigan, where he studies architecture. He graduates with top honors. In 1936, Wallenberg is apprenticing in a bank in Haifa, Palestine. He's been sent there by his grandfather to learn the banking trade. But soon he finds himself distracted from his work by more compelling events. Haifa is the central port of Palestine. Thousands of Jewish refugees from Europe are pouring into the country. Wallenberg watches them arrive day after day, starving, terrified, still in a state of shock. He hears their stories, the beatings, the lootings, the atrocities. Nothing in his upbringing has prepared him for this. The specter of these frightened... In 1937, Wallenberg returns home still haunted by the shattering events of Palestine. Been promised a position in the Wallenberg Bank, but his grandfather dies, and he's deprived of his sole sponsor in the family. Now his uncles, Marcus and Jacob, decline to keep the promise. At 26, bursting with energy and ambition, Raoul Wallenberg finds himself with no career and few expectations. But it is true. As the German armies sweep triumphant across Europe, everywhere the Jews are singled out for special treatment. It is still called by other names, resettlement, forced labor. The means are still crude, but in time the world will come to know this as the final solution. From 1940, repeated trips through Nazi-occupied Europe into Hungary. He's working for a food import company. The senior partner is Koloman Lauer, a Hungarian Jew. Wallenberg becomes an expert in dealing with Nazi officials. When to threaten, when to flatter, when to grease an outstretched palm.
He had a way of talking that he was very funny, you know. He was full of humor, and for some family occasions he imitated a German, just like a German, you know. He did it in such an amusing way, and we just roared with laughter. At that time, they showed the film with Leslie Howard, Pimpernel Smith, which was like a modern version of the Scarlet Pimpernel. And it was about a professor in archaeology in Oxford who wanted to save some Jewish scientists
Yes, you'll be surprised what we've discovered about an early Aryan civilization.
What's in that?
Oh, relics of pottery, weapons.
It was a very funny film because he had wonderful confrontation with the stupid Nazi heads. And it impressed Raoul so much because of this character Leslie Howard played and how he could absolutely confound the Nazis.
One problem, to be or not to be, as our great German poet said.
German? But that's Shakespeare.
What, you do not know?
Oh, I know it's Shakespeare. I thought Shakespeare was English.
No, Shakespeare is a German. Professor Schutzbacher has proved it once and for all.
Dear, how very upsetting. Still, you must admit that the English translations are most remarkable.
Good night.
Good night, good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
What is that?
One of the most famous lines in German literature. But in reality, there are no Pimpernels, no rescue missions, no escape. Bullets and open pit graves give way to gas and ovens. In January 1944, President Roosevelt finally decides to act. He establishes the War Refugee Board. Its purpose will be to save the surviving Jews of Europe. Ivar Olsen is the board's representative in Stockholm. By coincidence, his office is in the same building as Wallenberg's. Inevitably, the two men meet. Olsen is looking for a man to go into Budapest on behalf of the War Refugee Board. June 9th. 1944, Olsen and Wallenberg dine together at the Grand Hotel in Stockholm. As the two men talk, Olsen realizes he's found his man. He asks Wallenberg to undertake the mission. Wallenberg accepts. July 6th, 1944, he leaves for Budapest. The train is crowded with German soldiers. Wallenberg sits alone and measures the odds. The Americans are financing the mission. They have pressured a reluctant Swedish government into giving him a diplomatic cover. Against him is arrayed a hostile Hungarian government, the German army, and the killing machinery of Adolf Eichmann. It seems hopeless. But for years, Wallenberg has been traveling through occupied Europe. He knows Hungary. He knows Budapest. He knows the Nazi obsession for paperwork, their weakness for both flattery and authority. He knows he speaks German as well as any Nazi officer. Since his days in Palestine, he has been haunted by the fate of the Jews. Finally, he's found an outlet for this passionate concern. Raoul Wallenberg, at the age of 32, is at the crossroads of his life, and he knows it. On July 9th, 1944, he arrives in Budapest.
I remember very well when he arrived to Budapest that day in July, and he asked me for a briefing. And I told him that now all the Jewish people in the country have been deported already, 600,000 Jewish people. There are only 200,000 people left in Budapest. So we have to concentrate our efforts to save them.
But how? He hears a fascinating story. The Hungarian government has granted a handful of Jews exit visas to leave the country. But the Germans will not let them leave. In Hungarian eyes, these Jews have surrendered their Hungarian citizenship and now, in effect, have become foreign citizens protected by foreign jurisdiction. Wallenberg senses that a vital precedent has been set. A plan begins to form in his mind.
He looked at these documents and he said, well, there must be a better way, perhaps, to do this. We could work on it. We could do it more elaborate. And so he invented more or less on the spot these Schutzpässe, these protection passports. And I have one here, and which shows you exactly how they look. They were in the Swedish colors, in blue and yellow, with the Swedish coat of arms here, and with a photo of the holder, and in Hungarian and German language saying that this person has got a visa for Sweden and is under the protection of the Swedish government with the family and the property and everything. A completely illegal document, of course, from the international viewpoint.
Illegal, but effective. Wallenberg is allowed to issue only 4,500 Schutzpasses, but he's found a way to confront Eichmann. He will slow him down with paper. Wallenberg now demands that Jews with Schutzpasses be placed in specially designated houses. The houses and the inhabitants will be under Swedish jurisdiction. To his amazement, the Hungarians agree. Wallenberg starts with only 3 houses, but he knows another vital precedent has been set. Meanwhile, Wallenberg's expanding operation is regarded with suspicion by the career diplomats of the Swedish embassy.
Wallenberg was not a career diplomat and had his own way of doing things, and he invented the so-called protection passports, who was issued in larger and larger editions.
Really, Raoul was the one who did everything, and his word was, on the end, the most important. So if he asked the ambassador to sign a paper, the ambassador had to sign the paper.
We always had to give in because Raoul Wallenberg had a very strong will, and he was saying, well, you're talking about protecting Swedes and their property. I'm talking about saving Jewish lives.
Time now seems to be on Wallenberg's side. August 1944, Paris is liberated. The same month, Romania surrenders to the Russians. The Red Army is closing in on Hungary. Now the German priority is to fight the Soviets. Eichmann is recalled to Germany. The Jewish problem will have to wait. The deportations finally stop. On October 15th, Hungary's leader, Admiral Miklos Horthy, makes a fateful decision. He announces a truce with the Soviet Union. For Hungary, the war seems to be over. Suddenly, within half an hour, the Hungarian government is overthrown. The Arrow Cross, the Hungarian Nazis, seize power. They are nothing more than a mob of thugs and murderers. Now they're armed by the Germans and let loose upon the streets of Budapest. The new premier is Ferenc Szálasi. Like his soulmate and master in Berlin, Szálasi's mission is to deliver his people from the Jewish Bolshevik menace. On October 18th, his interior minister makes a chilling announcement. We recognize no letter of safe conduct nor any foreign passport which a Jew of Hungarian nationality may have received from whatever source. The Schutzpass is abolished. Eichmann returns, gloating. The deportations resume. A ghetto is established. In a stroke, Wallenberg's work is undone. But now his ability to move comfortably in aristocratic circles pays off. Soon he has a friend in the new regime. She's the wife of the Arrow Cross foreign minister, Baroness Elizabeth Kameny.
Well, you see, we've been rather close work together, see. He needed me, I needed him, because I wanted to help the Jews too. So. Wallenberg promised to help in Sweden, whatever he could, that he will be recognized by the Swedish government.
They eagerly wanted Sweden to be the first nuclear country in the world to recognize them. Of course, we had the instruction from Stockholm never to do that. And this foreign minister, Kameny, he was a rather naive person, and we told him, you, Mr. Foreign Minister, you are going to be the first Hungarian ambassador to Stockholm. And he was very pleased to hear this.
Baron Gabor Kameny comes from an old and distinguished family. At 31, he is the youngest minister in the cabinet. His name and title give the new regime a touch of class.
First of all, Wallenberg wrote to nearly every day or every second day long diplomatic notes. There was already, yes, to my husband. You know, he wants to make him soft.
And he was very shrewd, Wallenberg, somehow. My husband sometimes got a little bit angry. He said, your friend Wallenberg and a friend of your friend Wallenberg. That's his word.
The Baron is more than angry. His ears are burning with gossip about his wife and the young Swedish diplomat.
And then they said that I've been a mistress of Wallenberg, and I did it for love for him. But of course, you can't expect that because I was very newly married. I expected my first baby, and I was in love with my husband, a very good-looking husband, really.
While the Baron worries about his honor, his wife worries about their future. She and Wallenberg meet discreetly in a quiet restaurant. They both know the Nazis are losing the war, and the Baron may be hanged as a war criminal. Wallenberg proposes a deal. He offers to protect the Baron and his family when the war ends, if he convinces Salishy to restore the Schutzstaffel. For her part, the Baroness must make her husband confront Salishy. But how? The Baron is loyal to his leader in his party. She will use her most potent weapon. She will threaten to walk out.